Happy Friday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of You Gotta Be Sha Tinning Me. Back from a couple week hiatus, I guess. Matt, how you doing, my friend?
Good, good. Trying to remember how to do this thing. Like you said, I think the post Breeders' Cup hangover kind of got to us, and then of course we forgot it was running on Friday last week. So
Mm-hmm.
it happens. Things
I,
sneak up on you.
yeah, I was actually talking to I called Ed DeRosa earlier today. I was talking to him, and we were talking bourbon. I had called him with a bourbon question, but we were just talking racing, and I was like, dude, I was like, I still haven't really bet anything since Breeders' Cup. Like, just no, I don't know. I haven't really had the want to jump right back in. Obviously, Matt, we talked about the Breeders' Cup beforehand off screen. I don't think we need to rehash all that. But
Unless you want to see me get really angry on camera again, but yeah.
but yeah, I think this is an interesting time of the year because stuff is pretty slow. I was talking to Ed. It's like, what's the next big day? And I was like, I don't know, Clark Day. He's like, I would say Pegasus. And I'm
Yeah,
like, well, yeah, that makes sense. But Clark Day is usually pretty fun. That's the day after Thanksgiving usually. We'll have the um, Cigar Mile. Oak Lawn and Championship meets start up in December, and then San Antonio opening day after Christmas. Usually with was it the Malibu, the dumbest 3-year-old stakes race in America. But yeah, it's kind of a weird time for American racing, but I see a name in the PPs here that tell me, hey, it's the start of Hong Kong season because we'll just jump right into it. Race 9 here, we got the return of Romantic Warrior,
that we do.
and yeah, I mean, call me a chalk eater, but I really think the race kind of just starts and stops with the Romantic Warrior. I think we've talked about this. There's not really many. When you think of Hong Kong, like the top horses of Hong Kong, you're thinking 1200, 1400, 1600 meter horses, right? That those one turn horses. You're not thinking these stayers, right? These route runners. And Romantic Warrior has proven it in Sha Tin, in Australia, in Japan. Um, I I don't know. I know he's coming off a layoff here, and I just don't see any way around him. And what's even funnier is, I mean, of course he draws the rail, right? So I mean, I think even if there were a chance that he's just floated very very wide for around that that first turn maybe. I mean, that's not even going to really be a thing here. So I had a really hard time getting around Romantic Warrior. You, however, are much more creative than I am sometimes when it comes to this stuff. So, what did you think?
I think Romantic Warrior is like D- race wins this by like 6 lengths. I don't know.
Okay.
There's no getting around this source, right? I mean, this is what I tried to think of at least was like, right, this is the basically like Hong Kong International Prep Day, right? These are when these horses start to come back. They get run under their belt. They're obviously not necessarily pointed here. They are going to point off the HKIR, right? So these are like the grade twos where, again, you see Romantic Warrior, like you said, coming off a layoff, right? Like maybe a horse can beat him here, but there's just no one in this field, right? I mean, maybe you could argue 5G Patch with a run under his belt could run a lot better than Last Out. I don't know. I don't know who else is in there. Maybe Kai Ying Generation could have some massive improvement and run well. That would have to be like a, I don't know, a 15 length jump. I don't know. There's just nothing else in here that really is interesting. And look, I mean, this is Romantic Warriors coming out to start another campaign, right? I mean, this is the 2,000-meter horse in a colony that doesn't have a lot of 2,000-meter horses. And oh, by the way, it's a pretty good one at that, right? It's proven itself internationally, and like you said, in Japan and Australia. So, I, just take your single and move on. It might kill this sequence a fair bit when you're thinking from a pick three perspective, right? Like starting with this, you're not going to get really any value out of it. But I mean, take the layups and move on, right? There's nothing else in here, I think, that could even sniff unless something goes really wrong in this race.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor it too much. I like if he gets upset. Honestly, it's one of those races where I mean, you
You're going to
talk,
get paid. If you have any
yeah,
opinion, you would definitely make a lot of money
but
on it because that horse is going to be very, very short.
but it's like if he gets beat, I mean, like you got to throw a dart, like because even like I said, even if you go past him, these aren't exactly horses that are in great form, you know. I mean, maybe I don't know, maybe a horse like Ensued, who won a grade 3 last out. But you kind of look at his recent 2,000-meter races. I mean, they're not really anything to write home about. So I don't know. I just think like uh, I guess you could try and beat him, but if you do, like you basically got to take I think every other horse. Like I don't know. I had a hard time um, even trying to play play the contrarian game. And I mean, if you couldn't think of something creative, I mean, if there's someone who loves a bad horse, I mean,
I tried. Trust me, I
you're
did.
looking at thing one and thing two here, right, with the two of us. So, it was a tough one, but we'll move on. Race 10 here, 7 furlongs, and we got Class 3 racing. And Johannes Brahms is coming in here from Great Britain, Ireland, and we've talked about this before. All of a sudden, you see Mr. Purton, getting aboard this horse that's coming in. Been trialing well here at Hong Kong. It is coming in as the high weight in Class 3. So yeah, I mean, I think all signs point to go here, but is drawn in the 14 post. And, you know, uh, I mean, Zach can do a lot of things, but I mean, still, that draw is going to be tough for a horse first time here in Hong Kong off of, a little over a 2 month layoff, or not 2 month, 14-month layoff, excuse me. Um, so, yeah, I think you're asking a lot for this horse. That being said, is going to be one that's going to be on my ticket. I think the 2 Gracious Express is another one that's going to have to be on my ticket. I think is, could be your potential leader in this race. Um, is a consistent horse. Hasn't won in 5 starts, but it seems to always kind of be right there. Out of the last three races, I mean, he's got 2/3 where he was 3/4 of a length off of it. Um, but I think three back, there's a horse that beat him that's going to be my top pick. No, it is not my co-host of Drank and Champagne's favorite horse, Lord Miles. No, no, no. This is King Miles. And I think King Miles this is something we've talked about before, and honestly, I feel like we haven't seen this much lately because this is something I always look for. This is the horse that last 2 starts, seemed to kind of have maybe gone off form a little bit. But I see a horse that's drawn in the 11 post and the 9 post. The 2 races before that, he had back-to-back wins. He was drawn in the 1 post and the 5 post. He's drawn back into the 2 post now. So I think he's got a bit of an easier time. He's drawn well. And I think we can get this horse back on form with this good draw here. So I have King Miles here as my top pick. The only other horse that I think is interesting is the 6 Mastermind. which I think we've talked about on other podcasts or other episodes. Um, but I see, James McDonald, he's in town. He's hopping aboard here. This is a horse coming off of 2 wins. And, he won with Hugh Bowman aboard, won Zach Purton. Why? I mean, why not J Mac over here? So, shedding a bunch of weight because he was 135 pounds last time. He's down to 125. He is drawn a little bit outside, but he won last time from an outside post. Obviously, this is going to be tougher coming up in class, but I think with the drop in weight and the fact that maybe there's not many world beaters in here, maybe he's catching the soft in the field here. So I have three B's in the 1, the 2, and the 6, but my lone A is going to be the 4, King Miles. Where did you land, Matt?
Kind of similar to you, actually. So I actually thought some of the value in this race would have to be a get around or to get around horses like Mastermind. I wasn't sure the price you're going to get. I do think that horse has a lot of talent, but I also see, right? I mean, that horse is jumping up in class, basically to the middle of class three, right? And that's what happens when you rattle off 2 wins. You pick up a lot of rating and you end up getting thrust kind of into a deeper waters into class three. And sometimes you see those horses really thrive, right? You see horses kind of pick up and just say, hey, they have enough ability and they can run really well. And I think, he fits on figs, but that class jump is always a question. And the price I think you'll get on this one is probably too low for my liking. And especially if you're going to be singling, you know, Romantic Warrior the last race, I don't really want to start off favorite. So I, I'm usually wrong with the market. If the market goes the other way and this horse is sitting at 7 or 8 to 1, I think it's a must use. But if it's sitting at 3 or 4 to 1, to me it's kind of a toss in that respect. So I looked elsewhere. I did it up on a couple of the same horses you did. I thought this race really does set up for Gracious Express. That'll be kind of my primary A in here. If you watch the last race, it was hung out wide against a pretty strong horse in Lucy and this guy that ended up winning. But horse kind of gets stranded in the four-path the whole way around, doesn't have much place to go. It kind of tries to drop back, but it kind of gets caught in no man land with a really kind of a poor ride. And so, kind of gets caught in between. You'll see, like, hey, I think it was sitting in seventh and it looks like it closes, but that's it's kind of a stalking seventh. And in here, I mean, I don't even know if it might even get the lead, and it might just be able to kind of have that staying trip all the way around, which I think you see kind of the best races that horse has run has been kind of in that, second or third slot. And this sets up much better for that. So to me, the trip is going to set up a lot better. Doesn't pick up a lot of weight. Gets Hugh Bowman, who should give a much better ride than last out for sure. And so that'll be kind of my primary A. I do like King Miles like you do. I think you know if for nothing else, I've bet this horse twice now and expected it to run better, and it hasn't. So this will be kind of the last time I try it. I think there is some ability. I think it did have some excuses. Again, I think it ran into Green and White last out, who came back to win again. That's obviously a really strong horse. So we'll see. But I do think there's enough ability, and I do think if you get a horse that is drawn well and has shown that back class, and you get a price on them, those are the ones that you really do want to use because they clearly have races in them. This horse is only 4; it can't be too off form, right? If you're thinking, hey, you don't really lose that much from a 3-year-old to a 4-year-old season. I'll put it that way. So yeah, I'm willing to give this one another shot. Use that as well. Um, a couple other horses did kind of pique my interest further down. I think mostly as Bs, just from a pure price play. This is obviously a pretty strong Class 3 field, so I do think you get a fair bit of price on them. But the two that stuck out, the 10, Fantastic Win. I don't know if this horse needs the race, but the trials have looked a lot better. And what stuck out to me was kind of the relative strength of the races that it was coming out of. It's only run 2 races, but you look those races. I think its first out, it had a couple. That race had a couple winners come back. The next race had 3 winners come back just out of that race, and that's kind of rare to see out of Hong Kong. And look, I think one of the worst angles you can have is saying this horse lost to some really good horses. It's losing to those horses, right? It's not a really good horse if it's losing to horses that can win. But I do think it's a young horse. It's coming into its third start. It's coming off a bit of a layoff. Uh, Hey, maybe there's something there, right? The trials have looked pretty good, and maybe it pops first out. And I think you'll get the right price and a decent draw. Maybe it can show something. So to me, this is one of those value plays that I think I just want to use because I think again, if a horse like that does kind of step up, um, it can make your ticket, kind of tenfold, right? And then a similar way for the 13 Giddy Up. I think this is one that again is drawn wide, but kind of that angle of improving second up, right? It has back races that really do fit here. It, even first up, it closed into a really slow pace last out. Um, and so if it does happen to get a better setup in here, which it may not, if it at least does get a little bit of pace up front or can close into something, right? And, is sitting at a low draw or sitting at a low weight. Again, one of those ones that I think is just going to be such a price that to me you have to use it, at least in some form on a ticket. So I'll be pretty wide here, trying to get around, what I think will be the favorite in Mastermind. And honestly, kind of hoping one of those underneath horses hits in the 10 or the 13, just hoping they show something. But yeah, otherwise, probably similar to the way you saw this race.
All right. Race 11, Class 3 racing, 6 furlong race. And, I got bad news. I think I'm on the favorite again.
Probably, yeah.
The one packing power, I mean, once again, this is just, horses rattle off 3 straight wins. Seems to be one that's climbing up the class ladder pretty fast. Zach staying aboard. Didn't draw awful in here. And kind of, I think, got soft enough field that, I mean, he really just looks the best in this spot. Um, I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, in some ways, this was a good card to come back to, because it was. I felt, I got to look at some horses and stuff like that, but it seemed pretty. I don't know. I'm probably on all the chalk in these races, but I will say, I have one B in here, and that's the 480 light years. And you look at the recent form, and you see a horse that's finished 8th, 11th, 10th, and then 10th again. And you're like, what the hell is going on here? Like, what? Like, why are you even looking at this horse? Well, 5th start back, won. And how did he win? Going wire to wire. Look at the jock who's aboard for this horse. If this horse does not go to the lead, I mean, Brittany Wong has got one move. She has one move, and that's get to the front. So I think if there's any chance for the kind of spring an upset here, it's Brittany Wong getting this horse out, using that 10-pound allowance, and just going. And let's see if this horse gets brave on the front end. It worked 5 starts ago, and since then the horse hasn't even sniffed the lead. So let's see if Brittany can get this horse out clean and get to the lead. Maybe we get a little repeat of that race 5 back. But other than the 480 light years, I had a hard time getting around the one packing power here. Interested in your thoughts here, Matt.
Yeah, I think I'm probably reluctantly using packing power. I don't know. I think it'll be too short, but I do think it's the best horse in the race, right? And I hate to say like, hey, I want to toss it, but I do want to toss it. I just don't want to tell you not to bet it because, you know, again, he probably wins, right? Uh, It's not going to be any value, and even again from a ticket structure perspective, I wouldn't encourage you to play it. But again, most likely winner is probably the one. Um, if you want to use the horse that I'm gonna not use and talk myself off, the horse that I gave up on is the 5 Davano. I'm not using that horse. I'm sick of that horse. I've bet that horse too many times, and I think it's been short. It hasn't really had any excuses the past bunch of races, right? I mean, you do see a couple of the horses that I talked about last race, and like, um, at least way back in like Mastermind and Lucy in the Sky, and those horses that was good. But since it's come back this season, I don't know. Those are very beatable fields, and just hasn't shown anything. Without really an excuse as to why. So I'm hoping it takes too much money. I'm hoping people see James McDonald. I hope people see kind of that good draw and end up betting it. Um, as you scroll down, I realized I picked a horse that is withdrawn, so I won't be betting on the 7 Super Infinity, but I was super excited to actually bet that horse. I thought that horse was incredible value. So I need to update my information to not pull that horse. Um, so don't bet the 7 unless you want a very juicy refund, guaranteed winner. Um, one other horse then that I did want to play was the 12 Champion Instinct. And this will be effectively just a layoff play for me. I no surprise that I like horses that are coming back off of kind of extended breaks. I like seeing that horse that, has run really, really well. If you look kind of that, 3 back, 4 back, 5 back, it was rattling off wins. And then something clearly happened, right? In April and May, that horse likely was injured, right? And something was wrong with it. And because of that, that horse gets a break. Because of that, that horse comes back at an actual lighter weight. And as you know, they won't let these horses run unless they're completely sound. So if you can get back to that form that that horse was running at, and you get a lighter weight because of it, and you get a decent draw, I always think layoff plays here are really, really good angles. So you'll get a price, you'll get, kind of hopefully improved form. And hey, I think one that could take this out if it, runs like it was prior to something happening, kind of those last couple races out. Hopefully it doesn't need a race, but I think again that's where all kind of the value is seeing that kind of first up. So I guess with the 7 out, I'll be kind of too wide and probably most of my money even through the 12 because I think that's where the real value is in here. So
I mean, heck, this is a horse that beat Pachitheta, 5 back.
a
That's a
lot
solid horse.
a lot of ability, right? Just I don't know what price you get, but the trials have looked pretty good. So again, be aware. Those layoff horses, I think, can give you some pretty good value here. That's probably one of my favorite angles across Hong Kong. If you see a horse that's been sitting on the sideline for 6 months, those are normally fires. Yeah.
Yeah, and just pay attention to just because there's probably a good chance that 12 maybe is a different number depending on which horse draws in. So, but Champion Instinct, remember the name. Um, and well, for our bonus round, our bonus race, and obviously we're great and we talk about this 10 seconds before we go live or to record. We both picked race 4, 7 furlong race, class 4 racing. Matt, where did you land?
Yeah, I actually landed on the 3 Owner's Paradise, and I know, hey, me simping Zach, that's probably, maybe not the greatest value in the world, but I do think a horse like Markwin probably takes a ton of money in here, like it did last out. That was a horse that looked really well, kind of first up, and I think because of that, that 5 is going to take a lot of money again. I would just caution people on that, right? Like you have kind of 2 deep closers in this race, and if you look at some of the figs, to me, the 3 closes a lot better than the 5 kind of in the shared races, right? I mean, just looks like it has a much faster closing kick, kind of in those previous slots. So, hey, second up this season, I think is always a good angle. I think might have needed that first run. Yeah, I mean, I think gets Zach aboard, gets a decent draw. I think that's hopefully a better opportunity. And like I said, kind of hoping that, horses like the 5 take too much money and end up with a little bit of value left over for the 3 in here to take this out. So that'll be my play kind of in race 4. Um, but obviously was happy to hear that you ended up on a completely different horse in this race. So
Yeah, so I landed on the 4 Santorini, and you know, you look back at the form and had a couple Griffin races, and won one of those, but then kind of went into those restricted 4-year-old races or those restricted races, not 4-year-old races, but and you usually get a couple of really, really, really good horses in that, and it's you see Patrick Cosmo won both those races in there, and I think that this is just going to be an easier spot for the 4 Santorini. I mean, you saw that the horse got beat, finished 9th and 11th, and only lost 1 rating point. So those are probably pretty tough fields that he was in that case. And when I look at this race, I see a race that's pretty devoid of early speed. We're going 7 furlongs here. This is a horse that's shown speed at 5 and 6 furlongs. So I think there's very good chance this is your leader, and I love seeing these horses on the stretch out. So I'll take a chance on Santorini here at a bit of hopefully a little bit of a price. We'll see what we get here, because I do think, like you said, a horse like the 5 Mark Win will definitely take some money. I mean, maybe even oh, who was the other horse I looked in here? I thought maybe a horse like the 7 could take a bit of money, but that's another horse that's going to be kind of closing from real deep. But yeah, I don't know. I thought the 4 was in here, just kind of a pace play. You take the Zach play, I take the pace play. I mean, it's pretty much business as usual for us. So, but who you got for the Jake Paul fight? That's going to start in 19 minutes, allegedly.
I'm betting Jake Paul because it's rigged. And look, America loves a good heel, right? This is wrestling 101. You don't kill your heel storylines, because that's what keeps people coming back, right? No one's upsetting the apple cart. They need Jake Paul to continue to win these fake fights so that people tune in and hope he gets knocked out by someone. So it's all fake. It's all rigged. Jake Paul in a decision. Play for the rematch.
So my dad was not really a huge gambler, and by like huge gamble, like he would gamble. We had, when I remember at work, he used to do they would do a pool where you had to pick all of the Mexican soccer league games, and like it like was ginormous. It was like maybe close to 100 people in it, because it was like people's aunts and uncles and cousins, and everyone was getting into it, and it was like $5 or $10. So like it was like if you hit, it was a couple $100, usually, because usually you split, right? Not People usually didn't win the whole thing. And then they would do a confidence pool for the NFL, and so he would always buy me in, and so I would do the confidence pools and stuff like that. But and we went to Vegas a couple times, and like he would very quietly like sneak off and like come back and be like, "Oh, I lost $100 in a slot machine," or I won a little bit or whatever, but never like never a ton. But I always remember he always used to say, "Josh, you have to bet with your head, not with your heart," because he would look at my confidence pool every week. Josh was circling the Bears and putting a number he shouldn't be putting there for his confidence on it. And he's like, "Josh, you have to bet with your head, not with your heart." That being said, there's nothing more than I want to see than Jake Paul getting his face beat in. So I bet Tyson to win. And I mean, I probably just lit that money on fire, but sorry, Dad. I probably let you down. But
Look, you've seen me betting, and you see some of the stories, right? The best chance that Mike Tyson has in this fight is me betting on Jake Paul. He might break a leg on the way into the ring.
I might need to upload this thing immediately and see if we can get this out before the fight gets out. But that's gonna do it for us here on You've Got to Be Sha Tin Me. Obviously, Matt will have probably some type of analysis in his picks up on Twitter at Slow and Steady. I'm at Cherry Drank. We'll be back live next week on probably either Wednesday or Thursday. We'll figure it out with the stream. Just get something in before Thanksgiving, and family takes over for a couple weeks. But let's make some money, guys.